a radiogenic production.
Hello, Mark Quinn here again. My time working in local radio in Bray from the late 1970s to the 1990s centred on my passion for interviewing, whether recorded or live. I got to speak with many, many people, all sharing stories or supporting Bray area causes. I suppose I'm fortunate to have kept many reel-to-reel and cassette recordings, which now, thanks to modern audio restoration, we are able to enhance so that we can hear these voices from the past once more. This podcast series largely draws from BLB, or Bray Local Broadcasting, and Horizon Radio, and centres around interviews mostly from the late 1980s and into the early 1990s. I was really lucky to have some great people around me, such as sound mixer Chris Conway and particularly researcher and producer Elaine Keogh, who managed to source some great guests for me to chat with live on Saturday mornings. Together, our team produced over 50 one-hour episodes of Quinn & Company between 1989 and 1991, and our work was honoured with a 1990 Bray Chamber of Commerce Endeavour Award, a recognition that I still value deeply. So, as we travel back in time, I hope you enjoy listening to these archive interviews. Back in the mid-1970s, the traffic layout on Bray Seafront was very different from how it is today. To handle the summer tourist rush, the then Bray Urban District Council ran a seasonal system. In the winter, Strand Road was a standard two-way street, but from May to September it switched to a one-way system. This reliance on drivers noticing temporary signs ultimately led to a tragedy in June 1977. On Bank Holiday Monday, June 6th, motorcyclist 19-year-old Niall Lynch was involved in a head-on collision outside the Strand Hotel with a driver who was unfamiliar with the summer-only one-way rules. The accident, caused by the driver travelling against the system, left Niall with 75% paralysis. Niall subsequently won a landmark court case against the driver, and a ruling was made compelling the town to permanently abandon the seasonal layout and make the seafront one way all year round. Despite his injury, Niall refused to be defined by it. At a time when Ireland had minimal disability support infrastructure, he forged a fiercely independent life for himself on Meath Road in Bray. 13 years after the accident in 1990, Niall joined me in the Horizon Radio studios at Prince of Wales Terrace, Bray. We were both well acquainted, having been classmates in school, and he came to share his story. In this recording, you'll hear the late Niall Lynch reflect on his life, his remarkable determination, the immense changes he faced, his enduring passion for motorbikes, and, first and foremost, the events of that fateful day in 1977.
We were driving down, myself, girlfriend on the back, and Robbie Boland, a friend of mine, was on another bike with his fiancée at the time. He never actually married her. He still got married. I never saw the car. I think I might have been looking around me to see where Robbie was. He was behind me, or else I was probably looking at some bird on the footpath or something. There was a bang anyway. I knew I hit something, and I ended up on the roof of the car, with my head lying back towards the windscreen. So I didn't feel too bad.
Robbie came over to you, didn't he? And he asked you how you were.
Yeah, and I said I was grand. I asked him how's the bike. I was a bit worried that the bike was...
What about the girlfriend?
Well, I asked about her as well. The bike was actually so badly bent that it never fell over. It stayed standing on its own. The girlfriend went flying over the car. She landed about 20 yards down the road and she just broke a bone in her foot. I broke my neck straight away because I had a large gash on my left knee and I never felt it. I didn't know I had.
Okay. So you're lying on the roof of this car and the ambulance arrives and they took you to Loughlinstown Hospital.
That's right. I remember going in the ambulance. I was lying down girlfriend was sitting beside me, and I was asking her, was she all right, and saying, don't worry, you'll be okay. And because she was in pain, her foot was hurting her, but I wasn't in pain at all. When I got to the hospital, I started to get a lot of pain in my neck. They had a collar on me. They put a collar straight on me, the ambulance man. Then after a while, I realized my legs, I couldn't feel my legs, or I couldn't move my legs. I started to panic a bit then. And eventually I passed out with the pain.
But before you passed out, you caused a bit of a fuss, I believe.
Yeah, one of the orderlies in there came to see me a few weeks later when I was in the rehabilitation centre, and he said he never heard a fella cursing so much as I did that night. I say I was in shock.
Yeah, and pain as well, presumably.
Yeah, I was awake in the morning and they told me I was going to the rehabilitation centre in Our Lady of Lourdes Hospital, Rochester Avenue. I was never in there before, but I associated the place with wheelchairs, so I knew I was in trouble at that stage. I always remember a very good-looking nurse came from the rehab to bring me in the ambulance. She was very nice and chatting away, and I can't remember her name now. She's not there anymore. So that was it. I ended up in the rehab anyway.
You were there for 9 months, but at what stage or when did you discover that this was permanent?
I'd say about after a fortnight. I knew my legs were gone. I wasn't too sure about my hands because I'm a quadriplegic. I'm gone from the chest down, paralyzed from the chest down. I was constantly asking doctors, what's the chances of my hands coming back? Because I could hardly even, I can move my arms now, my biceps work, but my triceps don't. So I'm fine when I can move my arms when I'm sitting up, but when I'm lying down, my hands are pretty useless. So I was asking the doctors all the time, what's the chances of the arms coming back or the hands coming back? And they said, well, just time will tell, but they never really came back. I got a little bit of wrist movement in my left hand.
So when you discovered that this was permanent and you weren't going to walk again, how did you feel?
I felt pretty down, very down. I had a lot of visitors in and out to see me constantly. The one person I talked to a lot was my sister Anne, who came in to see me a lot. She was she still is a teacher in Fergus and Bray. Before I got out of bed, when I was on traction for 8 weeks, I talked a lot to her about it, and she said, well, you're going to have to come to terms with it, that you're going to be in a wheelchair for the rest of your life.
And tell me about your life before the accident, because you were a lover of motorbikes. As long as I've known you, you've had a motorbike pretty much.
That's right. I got my first bike when I was 16. I had one before that, actually, a Honda 50 when I was 15, but I didn't keep it at home. I came home on my 16th birthday with a 125 that I bought myself, and fully licensed, taxed, insured. My father didn't give out too much because he had a bike years beforehand. My mother didn't like it too much, but they put up with it. And from there on, I got bigger bikes as well. I got a 250 after that, and a 350, and then the 500, which I crashed off.
And tell me about your personality before the accident. Do you think that you were a different person then than you are now?
My personality hasn't changed at all, I'd say. I'd say, if anything, I've improved.
Why do you say that?
Well, I'm not afraid to talk to anyone. I'm very nervous here at the moment, though.
You're doing fine.
I mean, I sat in front of the Admiralty interview board to become a helicopter pilot in the Royal Navy, and I didn't find it half as horrendous as this experience.
Well, I'm sorry about that, Niall. Okay, you were 9 months in hospital in Rochestown Avenue, and shortly after you came out of hospital, the court case came up.
Right.
You had a claim against the driver's insurance company. He, as I said, was driving in the wrong direction on the seafront.
Right.
Did you expect to win that case?
Yeah, it was a very straightforward case. It was just a matter of how much compensation I was going to get. The police were behind me. I mean, it was very straightforward. I was called as a witness myself. I was never cross-examined. I just told them the story, what happened. But I was asked, was I wearing a helmet? And I was. That was all. So the jury sort of were smiling over at me and all when I was giving evidence, and I was smiling back at them. They were all fairly young. And my barristers decided to settle outside court because they knew I had the case won, but they weren't too sure on the amount I'd get.
You had a figure in mind, did you?
We had a figure around £300,000, and that's what we were offered out of court. We decided to take it because we weren't too sure whether the jury would have thought that was an awful lot of money. They might have given me more, but they might have given me less. And at the time, it was record damages, so we took it.
Right. Record damages at that time, yeah.
Mm.
Did you find the court case harrowing at all, having to go through everything again?
No, it wasn't so bad. Medical evidence was given as well, and I was actually asked to leave the court for the medical evidence, just in case it upset me or something.
Yeah. How do you feel about the driver of the car? I understand you met him at the court case.
After the court case was over, his wife and himself came over to me. His wife was very upset because she didn't realise how badly injured I was. She was crying, and she put her arms around me, and I just told her to forget about it. It was an accident, didn't do it on purpose. And I don't hold any grudges or malice against him at all.
We should say, perhaps in the driver's defence to some extent, that the one-way system at that time was off and on. Sometimes the year it was one way on the seafront, and other times it wasn't. And it had just been changed, I understand, before.
It was the 6th of June I had my accident, and it was changed on the 1st. The 1st of June every year it was. Since my accident, it's been one way all the time now. The council were involved in the court case as well for not marking the road properly.
So how do you feel when you're on the seafront now? And some people do still disobey that rule.
All the time. I've stopped a couple of cars myself.
Have you really?
And actually said, this is how it's fellas like you that has me sitting in a wheelchair, you know, turn around.
Had you not got that money, what would life be like for you?
Well, it would be an awful lot different. I would probably have to be living with some of my family, or else I'd be in a Cheshire home, I'd say. Whereas I have my own house now, and I have my own life, more or less.
Your family and friends were very good to you in the early days.
In the beginning, the first year was the hardest after I got out of hospital. But I never got a chance to sit and brood about it too much. There were constantly people coming in, friends. My mother, my family, the whole lot, I have to thank them all, and my friends were great.
How did your family react? I mean, how were your family affected by that?
Well, there was major panic. What's going to happen when he gets out of hospital? How are we going to cope? My mother got a local fella, first of all, to look after me, a fella that lived down the road, who had a bit of experience. He worked in some type of a retirement home before that. So he was the first fellow that ever looked after me. And after that, I sorted myself out, and I got lads, friends even, to work for me.
Mm-hmm. How dependent are you on other people?
Well, I have to be washed and dressed every morning and got in and out of bed. I can't lift myself. So I'm totally dependent. Once I'm up, I'm not so bad. I can feed myself. I can type.
How do you occupy your time now?
Well, listen to music, watch television a lot. I'm a sports maniac. I watch any sports on television. I go to a lot of rugby matches. Rugby is my favourite sport. Follow Greystones.
You've been to Lansdowne Road a few times as well, I know.
Lansdowne, I go to all the home internationals if I can.
You were at Twickenham as well, I believe, for Tony Doyle's.
Yeah, Tony got his first cap in '84. We all went over to Twickenham. Great crack.
And you're partial to the odd pint as well.
Yeah. The social aspect of it.
Interfacing with the community, yeah?
Yeah. I do like going out for a jar. I used to go to Jackie's a lot. I lived next door to Jackie's, and it was time to get out of there. It was too handy because I'd be sitting at the window and people would be going in and they'd give me the nod, and rather than insult them, I'd have to join them. And I used to live in Jackie's more often than I was in the house. So I moved to the Meath Road then. I was better off, really.
You broke your neck, and normally one associates a broken neck with death instantly.
Yeah, I did. And in fact, before my accident, anyone I saw in a wheelchair, I thought they were sort of born that way. And I was sort of well educated, I good leaving cert and that. And now I make sure that people don't associate me with being born in a wheelchair. I tell everybody, anybody can end up like this. People need to be educated more about disabled people. I'm nearly 13 years in the chair now. I'm well used to people staring at me. I stare back at them. I don't mind kids staring at me because they just wonder, they come over and say, well, why are you sitting in the chair, I say, the easiest one is you broke your legs, I'll always remember my niece when she was about 5, Laura. She knew my hands didn't work too well either, but because I don't use my hands, they're very soft and that. And she used to say I had rubber bones.
Well, what is your attitude to motorbikes now?
Well, I still miss motorbikes a lot. Every sunny day I think about going out for a spin on a bike. Well, I wouldn't encourage any of my kids or anyone else's kids to have motorbikes, but I miss them. I think they are dangerous, all right. When I was 16, I had a 350. A lot of people would say that I was too young and reckless, but I was driving them for 5 years. I was fairly experienced. I used to go up and down to Cork every second weekend to see a girlfriend I had down there. I travelled all over Ireland and the best part of England as well on bikes. They are changing the laws anyway on the size of bikes you can get up to 18. And, when I was 16, I had a 350, which it's a powerful bike.
Did it affect any of your biker friends at the time? Did any of them give up the bikes or anything?
Well, Robbie Boland eased off a bit and he went into racing. I don't know whether that's safe or not, but it's better than racing around the road. There's no cars. Motorbikes are grand if there was no cars on the road.
Do you ever feel that I've had enough of this? And
in the hospital a few times now, I was very down. I felt like that maybe I wished I was killed, But I got out of that very fast. Felt very sorry for myself a few times in hospital. When you're trying to push yourself around an ordinary pushchair, the first thing I did when I got out of hospital was get myself an electric wheelchair, and that gave me a lot more freedom because I can just barely push myself in an ordinary chair.
You said to me that you haven't come to terms with it. You've accepted it, but you haven't come to terms with it.
No, I don't like it. I'd much prefer to be walking around. I'd give the money back in the morning to get back on my feet. But I put up with it. There's nothing I can do about it, nothing anybody can do about it, and I could sit at home all day feeling sorry for myself, but I get on with life. I have a good life. I have a better life than a lot of people have, and there are a lot more people a lot worse off than me. A lot of people come over to me and tell me their problems. Unfortunately, I'm a captive audience.
People lean on you a bit then.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah.
But I don't mind talking to people, and I feel if there was any reason that I was put in a wheelchair, I think it was to educate people. I'm not afraid to talk to anyone, and I enjoy. I used to play the piano before my accident.
Really?
I went up to 3rd grade, first class honours all the way. I gave it up when I was about 15, and I'm sort of glad in the way that I did now, because not having the use of my hands would really kill me, because I would have played the piano more now.
The time you were in hospital, you met many others who were in a similar situation to yourself.
Yeah, there were a lot of lads, all young fellas in there the same year.
And all from motorcycle accidents?
Well, no, not all from motorcycle accidents, but car crashes in general, diving accidents. Diving is one of the most popular ones. They hit the bottom,
Oh, really?
and that's one of the most common accidents of all for breaking your neck.
In the sea or in swimming pools? Or?
Both.
Really?
First thing I learned to do when I got out of bed was to smoke. It was the first thing I was able to do unaided, with a cigarette holder, and I didn't smoke before my accident. Now I'm smoking away.
You enjoy holidays, don't you? You go away
Yeah.
quite a bit, don't you?
I've been to Germany, Hong Kong, the Canaries, Spain, Greece, and Cyprus last year.
So the money helps, obviously. I mean,
The money helps. I wouldn't go if I hadn't got the money. My girlfriend Anne comes with me. She looks after me, and usually Victor Casoni, a good friend of mine, he comes to do the heavy work, carry me on and off the airplane, things like that. And we usually hire a car. We always hire a car, in fact, when we go on holidays, because I get fed up lying around the sun and I like to travel a bit.
so what was the most interesting place you were in? Hong Kong must have been interesting.
Hong Kong was very interesting. Got a good few stares there. A lot of people staring at me. I saw no wheelchairs there whatsoever. The only other wheelchair I saw was an American tourist. I don't know what they'd do with the disabled over there. It was a good spot, a nice place to be. We were 3 weeks there. That wasn't long after my accident.
What about your life expectancy?
Well, they said 20 years, but I'm not expecting to drop dead when I'm 40.
They said 20 years to you at the time of the accident.
Yes.
Yeah.
My health has been in general fairly all right. I've had a lot of urinary tract infections lately, which is fairly common for people in my position, but I'm getting a job done, small job. It's not a major operation or anything, next week, which I hope will solve that. That's one thing that does get me down when I end up in hospital every now and then. You know, life's hard enough
Yes.
without ending up in hospital again.
Okay, Niall Lynch, you're very good. You're very honest. Thank you very much for joining me today.
Thank you, Mark.
Niall Lynch passed away in October 2021, leaving behind a lasting legacy of resilience and a devoted life with his wife, Anne. That interview was from Saturday the 14th of April 1990, and this next piece of archive is from Saturday the 3rd of November from that same year. It had been exactly a decade since singer-songwriter and actress Hazel O'Connor skyrocketed to fame as the blazing, neon-haired star of the iconic new wave film Breaking Glass. By the time of this interview, Hazel was navigating a pivotal moment in her life. She was stepping away from the chaotic mainstream pop charts, battling intense industry legal wars, and fiercely reclaiming her independence as a live performer and storyteller, while living in Roundwood, County Wicklow. In this conversation, recorded live in our studios in 1990, Hazel speaks with raw honesty about the highs and lows of overnight stardom, the reality behind her haunting anthem, Will You?, and her enduring passion for the stage. And please be advised that this interview contains references to material that some listeners might find difficult. So, let's travel back in time to November 1990 and spend some time with the unforgettable Hazel O'Connor. Hazel, if I can turn to you first. You weren't born in County Wicklow, but you have Irish ancestry, don't you?
Yeah. My dad was a cladder man from Galway, and the Second World War, a lot of Irish boys kind of ran away from Ireland or told lies about their ages. My dad was one of those. He said he was much older than he was. I think he was 16. And because there was no work here, he joined the English Army in the Second World War, and thus ended up with zillions of other Irishmen in Coventry afterwards, and went into a car factory and met my mum and conceived me. That was it.
Simple as that, yeah. And yourself and your brother constitute the family, isn't that right?
Yeah.
The O'Connors, yeah.
It's just two of us.
Right.
And, when we're in England, everybody in the family calls Neil, and when we get over to the west of Ireland, everybody insists it's Niall.
Oh, yes, of course.
Always puts me in a quandary. I'm never sure what my brother's name is.
Hazel isn't really an Irish name, is it?
Nah, lucky really, I'd say, because I can't get stuck between the devil and the deep blue
Yes.
sea, because there's a lot of that if you're a half and halfer. I think if you're half Irish and half English. There's all the different claims that go on as you're brought up. You know, you come over to Ireland to spend your summer holidays with your family here, and you know, then the Irish connection takes you, and then you go back to your other surroundings. Like for me, working class Coventry, and it's you know, you kind of, well, in those days when I was brought up, you kind of look down a bit for having an Irish.
Really, yeah.
Yeah. I never went.
Irish jokes and that sort of thing.
Yeah, I mean, you just grow up and you get used to it. I never thought anything of it because I was always like a loudmouth anyway. But just funny thinking about it. You know, if your name is brought up when you first go to new school or anything, they say O'Connor, then everybody goes, Paddy. And
Yes, yeah.
you go, oh, okay.
And do you regard yourself as half Irish? You do?
Oh, yeah, because I've spent probably more of my fun times in my childhood here than I did in Coventry.
Yeah, you spent your summers in County Galway,
Yeah.
growing up. And fond memories?
Sometimes weird ones. You know, I remember going there when I was about 4 first, and my mum and dad are divorced now, but when they were still together, and we were swimming out there in the bay, and a big turd suddenly came towards me. And those are my kind of childhood memories, because they're always the weird ones, aren't they? It's like I looked at this thing and I said, Dad, what's that? And he goes, oh, Jesus, it's the sewer pipe, it's broke again. That's my fondest memory, actually.
If anyone would like a further description of what a turd is, we can let you know after the show. Okay. When our producer Elaine was talking to you during the week, you described yourself as a hyper personality, a hyper person.
Yeah.
Why do you think that is? And where does that come from?
Probably the beach in Galway. I think that's what started it. No, I don't know. Sometimes I get really fed up with having too much energy. I feel like, you know, like I came in this morning, I've got to tell everybody out there I'm not the best person in the morning. So if I make a supreme effort to be like sociable, then I go over the top, which is what's happening to me right now.
Uh-huh.
And I have to be really careful not to say stupid things or over the top things, or it's a weird, it's like energy surge or something. I don't know what it is, and I can't control it. It's like I can't travel with the band when we tour around, and I haven't done it for ages because I thought I don't want to go in a smoky van with all those smelly boys. And then we went up to Belfast on Wednesday. And I remembered why I couldn't go with the band all the time, because I have too much fun. I start, you know, like I'm sitting there in the van saying, well, what are we going to do now? And what do you do when you go in the van? So we all get the cards out and we're all telling stories. And by the time I got home, I had a terrible headache. And I just wanted to sleep for 2 days.
You're getting too old for all of this, are you?
Yeah, I just talk too much. I know what my problem is. And I'm going to see a psychiatrist. So.
You're doing fine. You're doing fine. Now, at the age of 16, you did what so many young people long to do.
I beg your pardon.
You ran away from home, right?
Oh, right. Yes.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about. Yeah. You ran away from home. Why?
That was very strange because I actually didn't have a reason to run away. I mean, I feel a bit disgusted at myself now because I upset my mum immensely, and me dad and me nan and all the people that I loved. Probably because I was a selfish person, and I still am. I just had this feeling that see, lots of things had happened to me that year, which I'll be talking about next week on telly anyway. So I've just done this Rap Against Rape record with some of the DJs from RTE. And in my 16th summer, I went for my first holiday alone. Well, we went with a friend's big sister to Morocco, and I was raped. And I was talking to the guy from the Rape Crisis Centre last night, just to talk about what they do there, because I'm going to be talking about it. And the funny thing is that it's something I actually have not really addressed, probably because I am a hyper personality. If something comes in, I can't always come to grips with it. So I put it away on a shelf somewhere. And I reckon that it kind of turned my head quite a lot, because I came back from that experience, went back to school, couldn't stand school anymore. Managed to get myself into art college, And I only stayed in the art college about 4 months, and then I took off. And I just think I was probably working on a different energy than I had been working on before that summer holiday that I took. I don't know. But anyway, I just wanted to get away, and I felt like I was now a grown-up and I could handle myself. And I kind of did, but it was a bad thing to do. And I always feel guilty about it now because I know that my mum really suffered. And my dad wanted to get Interpol.
To find you, yeah?
Yes.
Yeah.
But there was no big reason. It's not like anybody beat me or hurt me, or I probably did the hurting, actually.
But you were really running away from a situation in your own mind, perhaps.
That's what I'd say. I wrote a song about it. It was on one of my old albums. And in the middle bit, it said, now in the light of experience, there's nowhere to run to when from yourself you're really running away. And I think that's what I was probably doing. But I was 16 and I didn't really have the same kind of, as you get older, you can look back and go, oh, yeah, that's probably why I did that or whatever. But at the time, I just thought, oh, I'm going to do this.
Yes, yeah.
Have myself a good time and to hell with everybody else. But
Like so many people of that age, really. I mean, it's not...
I think it was the rape thing definitely spurred me forward and changed my look on everything, because it did. It changed my look on my boyfriend. My relationship fell to pieces. And I suddenly thought, is that it?
And you'd say you haven't really come to terms with it even at this stage.
Well, I'd say I have. But when I had this discussion last night, I asked them, what do they do at the Rape Crisis Centre? And as you know, in Ireland, it's got a very high proportion of child abuse, incest, and rape. And the laws on rape have only just recently changed, I believe. I remember coming back from Galway about 4 years ago, and a student girl really giving me the ins and outs on the law, and that it was a very biased law at that time. And so he was explaining to me that when something happens to you, it's going to stay there like a seed, and it might sometimes like suddenly blossom away like a big blooming weed and come out in all sorts of ways, years later in your relationship or whatever. And I was saying to my husband last night that probably sometimes you can have a hate, say for me, a hate of men that you didn't know you had. Especially, I'm one of those people that has loads of friends of both sexes. I love my boyfriends and I love my girlfriends. But my love relationship, i.e. my marriage, say since we've been here, we've had a really tough time. And there's a primal point where you get to where it's not anything to do with anything, a bit like women when they're having PMT, that I can't recognise why I'm saying or being such a bitch, for instance, and yet it happens to me. And it's like a man hate, and it might come from that's what we were just talking about last night. I don't know whether it does or not. I'd love to be able to afford counselling, or if the Rape Crisis Centre had enough money, then they'd be able to help, people like me who are like long-term goes, rapees who could benefit from counselling.
Okay, tell us what's happening this week then. You're making an appearance on television, is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'm doing Night Talks next week because they wanted us to do some music on it, which is nice because I haven't done any TV music with my own band since I got here. And then because they knew I was doing this Rap Against Rape thing, Shay asked me if I'd have a chat on Tuesday, so I'm going to do that.
What are you going to talk about? You're going to talk about the rape specifically, right?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it's a funny thing because before I wouldn't really talk about it much. I had a sort of an autobiography out some years ago, and I mentioned it in there, but I didn't go to too much detail. Again, because I think only in the last 5 years I've realised there's so many things that not just to do with rape or whatever, but generally, if you're one of those people that's allowed yourself to be a victim, then it always comes out later and you come out bitter and twisted. And I've had so many things where I've actually allowed people to rip me off, to exploit me, and therefore abuse.
So you've always been a victim, you think?
Yeah, and I think it's since getting married, it's actually turned me around a little bit. Therefore, I'm starting to realise it more.
So you're outwardly a very strong person, but inwardly quite a weak person.
Oh yeah, inside it goes like jelly.
Yeah.
And the more somebody hurts me, like when I had a really, when my career was like, oh yeah, that's Hazel O'Connor,
Yes,
biggest
yeah.
things in sliced
The
bread.
queen of punk.
Yeah, and all
almost.
that
Yeah.
malarkey. That was quickly, like burnt up in a big fire by my record company, by my manager, by everybody that was close and around me. But within 2 years, that we were all in court, and they were all ganging together and saying I was nutty and saying money had come through my hands that had never come through. And I couldn't believe it, because basically I've got this stupid, trusting, childish nature, which is a weakness, because, you got to know in life that people can do crappy things.
I don't know if it's necessarily a weakness. It's probably a nice trait to have, a good trait.
But it's a little naive, and therefore it really hurts when
Right.
somebody rips you off or says something nasty about you. It's like there's a girl called Suni that works on one of the Sky channels or something like that now. And years ago, she used to work at our office, and she used to come around my house for cups of tea, and I thought she was my friend. And then after I left my manager, she was writing for all the pop magazines and stuff like that. And she wrote in one column that after one night, Hazel O'Connor was ejected from the Simon and Garfunkel party on the grounds of taste, not sexism. And I always remembered it, and I thought, but I thought she was my friend. And it was only because she'd taken sides, and that's what the stupid business can be like.
Yes,
that
yeah.
I was in. And maybe even more so now. I mean, it's changed so much in the last 10 years. You're a piece of meat, you put on the plate for as long as you last, you take your money and you run. I suppose the punk and the new wave thing, we were all probably a bit soppy underneath.
Well, there were a lot of rip-offs. There were a lot of rip-offs around that time, weren't there? I mean, a lot of bands were ripped off.
And I'd say if you got to know those people deeply and underneath, you'd find that they're very, very feeling people, and we all look very gregarious and garish. But
You mean Sid Vicious and Johnny Rotten and all the
yeah,
people?
I mean, look at Sid Vicious.
I know.
He was like a pussycat, really, it would seem, wouldn't it? I mean, it might not be true, but I saw that film, Sid and Nancy, and I'd say he was probably a really soft, gentle person that was all screwed up.
And look what happened to him.
Yeah, we were like the generation of all screwed up people throwing our wares out.
But it was probably an appropriate time for you to come into the music business as well, because it's kind of suited your personality. That
Oh, definitely. Yeah. And I was glad, because another thing that I always suffered from was low esteem and thinking that I was ugly and things like that. And so, and I hated... probably because I was jealous, other women singers that were really pretty, and the way that had to be the standard, that if you weren't pretty or you weren't sexy, you couldn't be in pop music.
And suddenly all that changed.
Yeah,
of course.
all that changed. It was the opposite. And it was such fun not to have to try to be anything to do with sexy, because it just gets on your nerves as a woman sometimes, because it is always ploughed into, you read the magazines. It's gone back to it again now, we all kind of base our beauty on what you read in a mag, and they're all the skinny girls that look great under a camera. But it's not real, and sometimes that's upsetting, and in those days I felt very strongly about it.
But you came out of all of that quite well, although there is a kind of a...
Oh, did I?
Well, I think so, yes, if I may say so.
Still alive.
Tell me about the film Breaking Glass. That also wasn't without legal problems, but it was good fun, I imagine, was it?
Yeah, no, actually, I didn't have any actual legal problems with Breaking Glass.
Oh, right.
I have no complaints from that period. That was the best period I've ever spent creatively, because I met a director who was going to make a movie, and him and I went, and he liked me lots as a person, and he ended up wanting to change the whole script so that it would be a girl singer, and in the original script it was a boy singer and a boy manager, and the guy that had originally written it was a gay chap, and it seemed to me that his interest in the relationship between male manager and male singer wasn't going to be totally interesting to most of the heterosexual public.
Right.
And that's what the director felt as well. And it was a bit kind of camp the way it was written. And so they kind of swung the project away from the writer, rewrote it, got me involved. And it was the first time anybody had ever given me any credibility to be creative. And I just blossomed under that.
You mean creative in front of a camera?
Yeah, in all ways. You know, it was like I wasn't going to be writing the songs for the film, but I felt like this was my moment in time where if grasped, the working class kind of, I'll do anything. I'll do anything. I'll work my ass off. Yeah. I ended up, getting to write all the songs. I used to go in every day and go, do you know, I just read the script and I found this this song that I thought would be really good. And I was always doing that. And it was like opportunist. I guess I'm an opportunist. But again, I think if you're brought up in a very poor environment, you do work very hard when opportunities come your way.
Because you have to. Because
you have to, and you know that they probably will never come your way again. And we are generally in the working classes brought up to not believe we should do any more than, a job for the man, work for the man, whoever the man be.
Right.
So they gave me a really good creative environment.
So that pressure pushed you into working harder and produce the goods, as it were. The best you reckon you've done.
I think, as far as songwriting, I felt the best then. And it's only recently that I felt the same kind of passion, but a different one, because, I'm 10 years older. Mm-hmm. I don't want to write about bring down the government because it's stupid, Oh, they'll bring themselves down.
I was hoping we'd avoid the government.
No, I wouldn't do that anyway, because I felt very sorry for Brian Lenihan last night.
Oh God, she's off.
Sorry, but I just it's.
This is on the Late. You were on the Late last night. Yeah.
I just want to say this one point on politics in America. I've lived 2.5 years in America before coming here, and the way they do their presidential campaigns is by negative advertising of the other person, and I just think. I don't care if it works or not, because it's been proven to work in surveys. I think it stinks. I don't think that is how you promote yourself, by putting anybody else down.
Now, Hazel, the Breaking Glass movie was around 1979, 1980, whatever. And now we see you again in 1990. But for 10 years, we didn't really see or hear much of you, did we?
No.
What did you do?
Went into suspended animation. Read in one of these books, you can put yourself to sleep for 10 years when everything's going bad, and then come back.
When it's going good again. Yeah. I hope it is going good now.
Save your looks, so you don't have to pay when you do earn money again for the facelift. No, the reality is, the thing is about public life and private life is that there's a time when you get so famous that you don't have a private life. Public life takes over, and everybody goads you and prods you with the poking stick that if you don't carry on, you're going to lose it all. And what happens to certain people, and I think it happened to me, was that I just can't be prodded too much, because it sent me right over the line. I was very near, bonkers for a little while, because, like I said, all the people I trusted had turned on me. My boyfriend, I used to have a long relationship with Midge Ure, who used to be in Ultravox and did Live Aid with Bob Geldof.
Yes.
And Midge had a very funny attitude. I mean, Midge used to, if photographers were around, Midge would go, stand over there, Hazel, stand over there, away from me. Because, I wasn't kind of his class or coolness in front of the camera.
Or level of fame, perhaps, at that stage, or whatever? No,
we were both same fame.
Yet you were going.
But I was this gregarious, garish person in comparison
to
Mr. It means nothing to me, oh Vienna.
She's getting her own back.
Yeah, you out there? I've been getting my own back for about 3 years now. I swore I'd never say anything, but then when he got married, his mother rang me and said, "You little hussy," on my answer phone. "Oh, who would have thought of you?" And she kept going on and on at me on my answer machine. And I phoned her back and I said, "What's the matter, Bet? I've been away. I was somewhere else for 3 months." And she said, they said on the radio that you said something about Midge, and it went on and on. And just so that people know, when you get famous, they have a file on you in every country, in wherever the newspapers are. The newspapers will have a file and say, Hazel O'Connor. They'll pull out a drawer and they will read anything they want to read about anything you've said or supposed to have said. And years ago, one of the pop magazines had written that me and Midge had finished because of the size of his private part. And that's why they called him Midget, get it? That was what they said. I'd never say anything like that. And they were ruder about me anyway. They were saying, terrible things. But he thought it was dreadful, and he got the solicitor.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, when my manager phoned me, he said, have you seen the paper? And I read it, and I started to laugh because I just think things like that are silly, because people have always said horrible things about me, like, she's an old tart, or, whatever. And I was used to it, but I phoned him up and he goes, have you seen the paper? And I said, yeah, it's funny, isn't it? And he goes, no, it's not. And I'm suing them. So anyway, but the only way he could get through the court suit was he had to take a Polaroid picture of it. So he backed out. But anyway, back to the plot again. So anyway, all those things were happening, and me and Midge split up, and everybody seemed to distance themselves from me. I used to be best friends with Bob and Paula. Mm-hmm. Sir Bob, and Lady Paula. And suddenly I never saw them anymore. I mean, every Sunday we had a regular tea session at their house where me and Bob would play a game called Boggle for about an hour. He'd beat the pants off me, and then I'd have to go upstairs and sit with Paula and listen to her gossip and all her new little pop star boys that she'd been interviewing and all of her crushes. And suddenly it was all gone. Nobody wanted to be my friend. And I felt very alone. And what happened after that was that I kept trying to make records or trying to do this. And I was always stopped, or I was always impeded by the businessmen of the past. And they basically took great care in wrecking my career. And it carried on and on. I did acting instead then. I did a BBC series called Fighting Back, which kind of got me all the acclaim with the actory sorts. Because before, I was always in the middle of being an actress and a singer-songwriter. Mm-hmm. And so if I met other actors, they'd kind of go, oh, yes, it's that girl from Breaking Glass. And they'd never give me kind of any credence for having an acting talent, for instance.
The BBC series helped that?
Oh, yeah. Every time I saw actors after that, they'd go, oh, what was that series called? Oh, it was so wonderful in love. Because actors are like that anyway. Lovely breed of people. They're full of envy, but very nice, really.
Yeah.
And so I kind of did lots more acting than singing. And I'd say my writing went through a very, not great stage because I didn't have anything great to say. And then I got involved with Hare Krishnas, and met a guru who, I mean, he wasn't my guru. He was the guru for that movement at the time. And that's how I met my husband, through there.
Were you looking for something in yourself?
No, I wasn't looking for gurus and I wasn't looking for religion. Right. But I think I've always been looking for God. And I think that's the most important thing that came out of the experience, really.
Did you find him?
Yeah, I have a very big belief in God, and whatever religion or whichever way a person chooses to worship and do service to God, in the end it's like a wing and a prayer. Because none of us really know what's going to happen to us after death, only what we read in our scriptures. But I had the feeling that I got to the point in my life about 6 years ago where I couldn't really take much more of the mental pain. I couldn't believe that people could be so nasty, and I couldn't believe that I'd done such nasty things to deserve the nastiness that was all around me. Mm-hmm. And everything was hurting and pain. And first of all, I saw a television programme and they were talking about hurting and pain of animals and how they slaughtered them and factory farming. So I sat there and I said, I will never eat any meat again. And I didn't. And I wanted to change. And I figured the only way to do it was to be radical with myself, because you can't go around telling everybody else you've got to do this and you've got to do that. It's something that's like an internal revolution. And then after that, I met these the Harrys, who I'd had a very nasty thing happen to me by a Hare Krishna priest in my 16th year. Also, it's like weird that it all comes back on you, and I hated them. And then slowly, so I hated them, therefore I never read the scripture. I didn't read what the philosophy was based on, and the philosophy is the same as the Catholic philosophy or any Christian philosophy or even the Muslim philosophy.
Same God, really. Isn't it?
Exactly, the same God, different books
Yeah,
that
yeah.
talk and tell you about him or the power or whatever people want to think of God as. And so it helped me a great deal, and to read a scripture that that made more sense, because we have slightly differing views from, say, the mainstream Christian view. There is a belief in reincarnation, that the soul is our identity, and the soul is a traveling thing, and if we have work to do and things to burn off, bad karma or things that we've done crappy and 10 lives ago, then until we set it all to rights, we can't go back to God. And the belief is that you have to keep trying to fill yourself with love of God, so that you're attached to God more than you're attached to, say, sex with your husband,
Right, yeah.
or going out drinking and getting out of it, so you forget what the real purpose of life is. And the belief is the purpose of life is to discover God and go back.
So you married your husband 2.5 years ago, who's also a Hare Krishna.
He
and so
was.
he
That's
was.
when I first saw him. I saw him in one of their sort of school play type things.
Oh, really?
When he was all shaved up and wearing a frock.
And you said, I'll have him. Yeah.
No, I didn't. I thought, what a funny boy. Because he started cracking up. They were doing one of these big productions that the devotees do. And I've done plays with them since. And he was singing this song. He was like, we are the gods of Dwarka, and we sing a happy song. And I looked at him, and he was the only one that was cracking up. He was starting to laugh. And I thought, look at him, bless him. He's a funny boy. Who's that? And then years later, I married him. Very weird. Yeah, I spend a lot of my time escaping into my imaginary worlds. When I was little, I used to do two. I think I saw it on television, and then that's how I got the idea that they were always talking about imaginary friends. And I always figured imaginary friends were better because they'd do exactly as you wanted them to do, number one.
Like your characters.
Yeah, right. That
Say
same
what you
thing,
want
yes.
to say.
So you make stories, and before I go to sleep at night, if I'm feeling like depressed or anything, I just carve out a little picture in my head before I fall asleep of what I want to dream about. Sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't, but it's nice because then you can almost tell yourself a story as you're falling asleep, and your subconscious will pick up on it and go, "Oh, okay." And it's like watching a movie. That happens loads, and I like that. Or I'll just drift away. When I was a kid, I used to look at people and didn't even know I was looking at them because my mind was on Zeuron, somewhere out in the outer Hebrides of the universe. And the kids would always go, "What are you staring at? Do you want a punch? Do you want a kick?" And I go, "Sorry, what?" And then I'll come back to, and I always thought I was some kind of weirdo in my own self, because people were always saying, "Stare bear, what you looking at?" And I wouldn't be looking, I'd have gone somewhere.
I want to know how you find yourself living in Ireland, and what do you think of Ireland now? You're living outside Roundwood in County Wicklow.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Coming from America, it's 2.5 years ago, I decided to go and live in America just to try and do something else, be something else, change my life. And found it difficult living there because even though it's an English-speaking country, you have to learn all new words if you want to get your point across. You don't say, which motorway do you take? It's like, what?
Yeah.
Which freeway?
Yeah.
So you learn all the words and you put a drawl in your speech and you start to get
Americanized,
communicate.
yeah.
So now coming from that and being used to 24-hour supermarkets and da-di-da-di-da, arrive in Ireland. And luckily we came in the summer. I mean, now the winter's hit us and, we run out of wood all the time. We go to skips and get wood out of the skips just so that we can heat the house. And it's just very different. And I'm glad because I think if I stayed in things one way, normal all the time, I don't think I could handle it. But it's the same thing again. It's like here we are in a country that speaks English, but the words are different. The way you get things done is different. And that's all I know at the moment. I mean, probably by next year, I'll know how to get something done or what shop I go to.
Yeah.
But it's very subtle.
Culture, yeah.
And I like that. It's the thing that keeps one alive, especially a hyper one, you know. Better to go and learn more and find out about people and things.
This is Mark Quinn signing off till next week, and appropriately, the new single from Hazel O'Connor is called Till We Meet Again.
Hey!
May the road rise up to meet you. May the wind be always there to fly.
So 2 pivotal interviews there from 1990 that were broadcast live on Horizon Radio Bray. You heard Hazel O'Connor and Niall Lynch. Both were part of the Quinn & Company series presented by me, Mark Quinn. Elaine Keogh researched and produced the original programmes, and there's more archive interviews available in this podcast series, so please like and follow us. Or if you want, please leave a comment on what you've heard. To make direct contact, you can email us at radiogenicproductions@gmail.com. And thanks for listening.